And we're back at it here on String Theories, episode 3. Mike, how you doing today?
Great. Episode 3, man. That's awesome.
You ready to talk about some sort of darker stuff?
You mean like
we're talking heavy shit, heavy hitting shit.
Uh-oh. It's episode 3. I think it's time we
I don't know if our viewership is ready for this bomb to drop.
Doesn't make any sense.
If you will.
Hey, Targ, what are you doing bumping into this podcast? You already had your time last.
Go back to episode 2.
It's as though you've reached out and you've just dipped into the psychic signal.
All right, so, I know we talked about Carl Jung last time, guys, and thanks for listening to that last episode. We really both loved that episode. We appreciate you listening, but we're still a Jung podcast, if you will, and so we're going to talk about Carl Jung again. Carl Jung famously had this idea, this concept of what he called the shadow, and what it is this part of our subconscious, this dark side of every human being with a brain that they keep suppressed in their subconscious minds, right? Through many different sort of defenses, or that's probably not his term, that's probably a Freudian term actually. But anyways, we're going to talk about Carl Jung again and this concept of the shadow.
Carl Jung referred to the shadow as the darker parts of ourselves, the part we keep safely hidden by our conscious mind.
So you might say this episode is going to get a little more shady, right? We've kept it on the light side. We're ready to take you to the dark side today. So bear with us and stick around. Mike, can I ask you a question?
Well, of course, Josh. This is like a podcast.
I know we talked about this last time about you having sleepwalking stuff.
Yes.
And I think I was talking about my experience with beyond that, which is like my experience with sleep paralysis. And if we have the opportunity to talk about that eventually, then we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But I know you were telling me that you used to have, I don't know if you call it a recurring dream. Was it
It absolutely was a reoccurring dream. It was like when I was like in elementary school age, and I just would be like with friends running in the streets and like skateboarding or something, and like from behind a car, like this scratchy, like humanoid-ish, like scratchy black shape would just come chasing me, and it'd always catch me.
Wow, that sounds pretty freaky, man.
It was freaky, and I learned to train myself to try to wake up before he caught me in my dreams. So I used to be a really light sleeper, I think. So maybe that
were you able to wake up?
Oh yeah, I trained myself to wake up as a kid. I think that may have fed into my being a light sleeper. May have fed into like being on the realm to accept those kind of situations.
I'm glad that you brought up this concept of trying to wake up, because sometimes during these events, whatever you want to call them, the sleep paralysis events, the only thing you can do is try to wake up. And I've gotten better at it, but well, we're going to get into some of these stories here. Before we do that, though, maybe we should define it.
Good idea.
Better.
Actually, we have a guest right here. He's a doctor, and we'll let him introduce himself if he feels. I think he's kind of trying to lay low in the professional community because he doesn't want like his career being,
is that right?
Jeopardized. A lot of people frown upon this kind of stuff. Right. But hey, doctor, go ahead. Tell us. Give us a little background here.
A presence comes into the room, paralyzes its victim, then leaps on their body and assaults them.
Man,
so a presence.
That's some heavy stuff.
We'll come back to this later, but that's all take note of the fact that he said a presence. He didn't really define what that presence was yet.
Well, I mean, it's hard to define, I think, right, Mike? We talked about this, me and you. But I think you had some ideas about that. I know you said that maybe it wasn't what people often call it, a daemon.
Oh, of course, yeah. But before I get to that, we're paying this guy over here to be here. So what do you have anything to add to that?
Sometimes it's a shadowy figure. Sometimes an old hag.
Old hag.
Sometimes a demon.
See,
Daemon.
Sometimes a demon. Okay, well, of course. Here's my thought on that, which I'm glad you asked me, Josh, because it's like, okay, so when I think of a demon, I think of like something that's coming and it's like maybe knocking, poltergeistish, kind of moving stuff around, or there's a physical like taking over possession of a body.
Yes, but and they're more trying to influence you and like, steer you in one way, maybe be up in your ear.
But these entities that are just that people report along with these kind of sleep paralysis and stuff, these shadowy figures, right? They show up in the room, like they're in the room watching you. You wake up and they dart out, or they're in the corners. They don't really try to attach themselves to you. I think that's a big difference to me than most what you consider a demonic possession.
No, I agree. I completely agree. And it's hard to like say like, are these like I hate to call it a creature. We talked about my theory on this, guys.
It's an entity.
My theory is this, and maybe I'll wrap it up a little more clearly at the end, but again, I think it's probably us. I kind of think that we're in these states, these liminal states that we come out of, that in all honesty, I think we're kind of being tormented by this shadow that is a part of our being, if you will. Could it be, let me ask you a question, viewership, those of you on the viewership, could it be that our shadows actually occasionally, in certain instances, can jump out of our bodies and inhabit the waking world outside of the flesh of a human? And if so, I mean, imagine if you were a shadow, right? Figure, a shadow person, a shadow of yourself. It would be a terrifying thing to leap out.
You're waking up by a dream.
So, as far as dreams go, if we could just continue this dream thing, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because that's scary as hell what you're talking about, right?
Oh, and yeah. What he's talking about.
I've had scary dreams too. I had a dream my neighbor was a werewolf. This woman that lived up the street, she turned into a werewolf and ate her boyfriend in front of me at the drive-in theater.
Jeez.
I had to see her ingest her boyfriend in front of me.
Crazy.
Right? Rip him apart and eat him.
It's nuts.
And so that was nuts. And
that was a dream that just stuck with you. It wasn't a recurring dream.
Oh,
right?
No, it's just one time deal.
Amazing.
And then I had another dream that was precipitated through watching Snow White.
Snow White?
Disneyland Snow White.
Uh-huh.
There's a scene where the stepmother turns into the witch.
Uh-huh.
And it's very graphic, and her nails start to kind of just like...
Oh, yeah, I remember those nails crawling out.
Freaked me out as a kid,
right.
being like 5-6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, I dreamt that I turned into what we would call warlock.
A little witchy boy.
A little witchy boy. Yeah?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So dreams are terrifying. But not like this, guys. Let's be honest. Let's get back on track here. Okay,
Sure.
sleep paralysis
Mm-hmm.
is something entirely different. And yes, it involves sleep, but this happens when you come out of the sleep state.
Correct.
And you're in a waking state.
Know what's crazy to bring that up is that it actually, I didn't get to this part of my reoccurring dream. So the reason why I was training myself to wake up, because when I'm running from this or skateboarding away from this shadowy, scratchy figure coming at me, is that eventually I fall into a hole. And when I land in the hole, I feel like claws are digging into me, and I open up my eyes and I can't move and I can't scream my mom's name.
There's a beast, right?
That would happen over and over again with me as a kid.
That would happen over and over again.
So, there's a current that runs through a lot of these experiences. If you go and do the research, like we do, of course, in preparing for our
Definitely.
show here.
Yeah, months
but
of preparation.
If you start really looking into these cases of sleep paralysis, you'll find there's really a vein that runs through all of them that the similarities are hard to deny in their experience. Their waking experience, right, is all the same. And it kind of happens something like this.
First thing I remember as a child at night, I had just gone to bed. My mother just put me to bed, and I could see the lights on in the living room. I had just laid down for bed. I could hear my parents. I could hear the television. And I looked up, and to my right, I saw a couple, very shadowy, very dark, in my bedroom.
So, yeah.
A couple.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a couple. And guys, we're going to we may play a little more of her audio, but at some point in that clip specifically, it gets to a point where it's like, if you'd like to listen to her experience on your own, we're not going to put that on you though. Because trust me, it's a heavy
You can just go on
heavy
YouTube.
hitter. And yeah, we'll share the link with you. Just hit us up, But anyways, I'd like to, talk about my experience, which is very similar to what she just said, right? As a kid. And I'll tell you about what happened. One afternoon, I was probably 15 years old, 14 or 15, high school. I was sitting in my room. I did this chair. I used to sit on the, on the floor of my room and kind of rock back and forth, whatever. Just watching some TV, just getting ready to go to bed, This news story pops up. The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's being, maybe he's in poor health, or he was going through maybe it was his, he was about to get executed,
Oh, he was already captured.
He was already locked away at
Okay.
this point.
Uh-huh.
But this clip comes up of him in court, right? And they kind of come into a tight shot on his face, and he turns his hand, and there's like this pentagram on his hand, and
Yeah,
he
I
looks at
remember
the
that.
screen.
That was a major.
And in that
major.
moment, in my waking life, right, my reality, I felt this thing, like almost this like reverberation, this spinal reaction, and this shock that went through my body. I was like, "What the fuck was that?" It scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
So then that night, I went to bed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say about 2:33 in the morning, I'd awoken from a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So I woke up into my bedroom. Here I am, middle of the night. Oh, god damn, dude. Thank God I'm awake. Look to my left, and standing over me in my bedroom is Richard Ramirez, but dark version, right? Encloaked in shadow, with this kind of fake glowing outline to his face. He looked at me and he smiled. And when he did that, I became paralyzed, and I felt that I was basically being murdered.
Oh my God, it's freaky.
Yes. And so that lasted for what felt like probably about 30, 45 seconds. I kind of looked at his figure fade into the darkness, and then, over time I got up, turned my light on in my room, freaked out, caught my breath, ended up running upstairs, jumping into my mom's bed.
Mm-hmm.
At 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
Freaked out of my freaking mind, dude.
Crazy.
Beyond a dream. But, that paralysis.
It's scary.
You're awake. You're aware.
And you can't move.
You cannot move.
Luckily, there's that part in your sleep, cycle, like your REM state, where like that part of your brain turns off your mobility, so you don't like act out your dreams. So like maybe you wake up and that's still a residual of it, but that doesn't account for the visions.
Some sort of chemical thing you're saying in your brain.
Well, it's there when you sleep in that state,
Sure.
so you don't like water ski. But no, like I do that though. See, I think that's where like I might have a soccer dream where I think I'm kicking a ball and I like kick in my dream. I do.
Sure, yeah, your leg kicks.
Or you
out
talk in
whatever.
your dream, so you're somewhat aware. So
yeah,
be the opposite is true.
But okay, so this stuck with me, right? This night, imagine me. I'm jumped into my mother's bed. She's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it. I had like some experience right now that was really scary." So I ended up going to like sleep, can't sleep. End up finally coming to like the lights kind of come in the daytime. Like it's like probably like 5 a.m. at this point. And I'm like, okay, trying to go back to bed. Turn on my TV for comfort. So call me crazy, Mike, but to this day, I still love that Seal song from the 90s.
What
Remember
song?
it? Yeah. It's got my seal of approval. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. It's as though you've reached out. Doesn't make any sense.
A man decides they'll go 70 years. That's what he goes there for. Is to unlock the door. Well, those around them create sounds and sleep.
Doesn't make any sense. It's as though you've reached out. Doesn't make any sense. It's as though you've reached out.
On a breaking wall. I see you, my friend, and touch your face again.
Referred to the shadow as Carl Jung referred to the shadow as the
Wow, man, you just took me right back.
I'm telling
DJ,
you, man.
DJ.
I'm telling you. That was the remix for you guys,
Hey,
by the way.
What do you guys think about that?
Dr. Mikrosmith on the ones and twos.
Right, so I was back in my walkabout, coming around with me mates, just eating up for a beer, and ended up at this little beef witch shop, and, and I reckon it was pretty nice. But, let's go and make a call, yeah? Get a hot take. Get a hot take with our mate. With our mate, Michelle. Right? Let me dial it up, eh? Oh man, that's
Hello?
Michelle,
Hi, Michelle.
welcome to String Theories podcast.
Thanks. How's it going?
Thanks for calling in from all the way across the world, It's 8 o'clock here. What time is it down under?
Don't know. Let me turn the clock upside down.
Just playing. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, so, Mike, last time we were at a party at your house recently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were talking about, what was it, sleep paralysis. We were talking about sleep paralysis.
Yes, and Michelle, you told me the most frightening story, and I was like so captivated, but I also wanted to I was just picturing it so I could hear it again and have it be fresh again. So I'm excited for you to tell us this story because it was, from what I remember, I was just blown away.
Okay, can I ask you a question first before we get into your story? Have you been a sufferer of sleep paralysis since you were a child, by chance, or no?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Several times, yes.
And
Yeah.
so typically the situation, well, I guess we should get into your personal account, but we've been talking about this all episode, and typically what happens is there's a sense that there's something in the room. There's some sort of entity or presence or being, and some people say it's
evil.
malicious, and
scary,
it intends
bad,
to do
wrong.
harm possibly, or at least, to scare you. So yeah, just tell us what was your experience, your first experience with that?
Well, I've had several, but I think the one that comes to mind is I was probably about 12 or 13. In my room, obviously sleeping in my bed, woke up, felt something really scary and wrong, and I was frozen, but it hadn't frozen me yet. Just lying there, really scared, started to pray.
Oh my God.
And then I felt this thing, like I felt like a presence come into my body, and I actually physically jerked.
Yes.
So I was awake, and so I wasn't sleeping. I was awake, and I felt this thing come into me, and it was bad, and I physically jerked, and I just started praying the Hail Mary like over and over and over again. I mean, I just so many times until I felt it leave my body, and then I physically jerked again. And was so scared I couldn't move, and then I told my parents like the next morning. But that was the only time I actually had felt like, I mean, I felt and seen presences before, but that was the only time that I actually felt it like, it felt like it was coming into my body.
Well, an interesting thing that you said that when you were describing your experience was the shock and the feeling of something entering your body, because what's really cool, not cool, but I mean, interesting is Josh was telling his story and he experienced like a jolt as well earlier in the episode.
I think we talked about the party a little bit, but like I had an episode where involving Richard Ramirez, remember the Night Stalker? And I thought that he somehow was able to, I don't know what you want to call it, astral project or something, but he was able to leap across the bounds of the world, if you will, and then end up in my bedroom in a very similar way and shocked me in the same way. You know, I felt him sort of take control of my body. So that's a very similar experience, you know? And typically when we talk about sleep paralysis, it always happens the same way. So that's awesome. We really appreciate you.
Your story is really incredible.
Talking about that with us and sharing that. That's tough to do, too. That's
thanks for letting me share it.
Absolutely. So you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys too. Hopefully now I haven't brought another one on.
You know, as far as sleep paralysis goes, this is something that I've experienced since then, right? And I'm always like, I guess at 41 now, I'm kind of like, I try to be in the moment. So when it's happening to me, I'm aware of it a little more.
Yeah.
And I try to resist or not like let the fear overtake me, right? And I just kind of ride it out until I either wake up or fall back into a state of sleep.
Let me ask you this. See, like as a child where I was having those reoccurring dreams, I really trained myself to be a really light sleeper. So I could wake up in the middle of a dream. So I would beat that scratchy thing from catching me, making me fall. You know what I mean?
A safety mechanism.
So I would be able to pop out of dreams. So as an adult, have you developed that, or do you normally really deep sleep and need to serve?
No, I've sort of learned to occupy that liminal state more often than anything. Right? I tend to like to fall asleep to the sound of a human voice.
I can't wait to make you a fried egg on toast tomorrow morning.
Wow.
And I'm not sure why that is. It's very comforting to me.
It's as though you've reached out.
Targ is like just, you know,
he always wants to jump in. You know,
he's newly deceased. You know what I mean? So I think he's still hanging on a little bit here and reaching out into the psychic signal.
You put out a powerful signal.
Right. You know, it's funny you say the recently deceased, because for a while there, I thought these shadowy people might be ghosts. But I honestly believe, just to go back to the original theory that we introduced, that it's actually us. Right. I think it's like Carl Jung was touching on, you know? Yeah, like, I feel like it's us. You know, it's us tormenting ourselves.
And, you know, I believe that is, in some instances where we see one like a shadowy figure that just is watching us and doesn't know how to deal, that's the possibility is really makes much sense to me. But people's accounts where they're like assaulting them and like doing like really weird stuff to them, you know, like even like how that on that entity
it's
documentary,
poor girl,
how she sums it up. Let's just sum it up. You know,
sure,
her story is crazy.
Let's listen.
Here's how she sums it up at the end. You know,
you can't move, you can't scream. Feels like you've been drugged somehow.
Yeah, we'll spare you what happens before that, you know, but
she's exactly right though when she says it feels like you've been drugged somehow.
Yeah, because you're just paralyzed. That's different than like you like seeing something and it just that's a reoccurring thing, you know, where they just
imagine being drugged in a dark room, waking up and realizing that you are not alone.
Hypnosis is a powerful thing.
It sure is. That's to be sure.
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't care anymore about you, Targ.
He just wants to. He really wants to insert himself back into reality.
Yeah, he's kind of residual at this moment. About this, I think Targ's caught in like the stone tape like phenomena. He's like imprinted himself on there.
I did start to kind of parlay or segue. I guess segue is a better word.
I like segues.
Yeah, we segued into this concept of buildings harboring some sort of dark energy, like the place itself.
Yeah, stone tape theory. I just kind of mentioned that.
Right. So the reason I brought that up, though, Mike, is because, like, you know, back to what we're talking about as far as like places or buildings that may harbor, you know, like this, this ripple, you know, of human presence or some sort of darkness or some sort of like paranormal hotspot.
It's like
right?
a printing on that.
I'll tell you a quick
mineral.
I'll tell you a quick story. That happened to me back in around 2001. I like to tell stories. I had my buddy Russ and my buddy Jeremy over to the house, and we were hanging out one afternoon, probably around, I don't know, it was late afternoon, right around like, I would say 4 o'clock, you know, 4:15, 4:20, somewhere around there, and we were looking downtown in Long Beach, and they had gone on the balcony to have a smoke, and I was sitting on the couch inside my apartment. I was laying down, just chilling. Yeah, it was kind of like that. And next thing you know, Jeremy and Russ walked back in the apartment. Granted, they'd only been at my house for about 20 minutes. And they looked at me and they said, "Josh, we're taking off, dude." And I was like, "Why?" Like, "Dude, we just saw some shit that we can't explain, and we're kind of scared, to be honest, dude." And they looked like they had seen a ghost, Mike. And I'll tell you what happened, right? Are you with me?
I'm
Stay
here.
with
I'm
me
listening.
here.
I'm listening. I'm like,
okay. So that building downtown with the copper rooftop, right? In Long Beach here, this building, apparently there was like a suicide famously, and like apparently there's this like woman who haunts it or whatever. Well, that wasn't what they saw, guys. This is what they told me. They said, "We just saw a black fog come up out of the rooftop of that building in a column, a black fog. From a distance, we're talking about probably about a mile away. Black fog lifts up into the night and then morphs into a symbol. The way that they described it to me was like the Prince symbol.
Finish your pancake. Let's get to work.
In the sky. And then that symbol morphed into another symbol. And then that symbol faded into the night sky.
Wow.
They both saw that together.
That's insane.
And that made them want to leave my house. You guys think I'm bullshitting. That's an actual true story. Explain that one to me. The only thing I can say that it might have possibly been, because, you know, my biological, my skeptical mind, you know, wants to like shake me and be like, no, it was just this. Maybe it was a murmuration of starlings. You familiar with that concept? Birds that had like fly in flocks, giant flocks, had landed on that rooftop, and they all flew up into the sky, the night sky, and he saw this murmuration of starlings in the night sky.
I keep thinking that's the greatest name of a band, you know?
Murmuration of starlings?
Yeah, or a album or something.
It sounds super emo.
It does sound super emo.
It's like murmuration of starlings. This is our first record.
It's our first and our last.
What's the name of the album, Mike?
Self-titled, bitch. That's what it's called.
No, it's called Night Sky.
Night Sky Obliteration.
Seeing.
Night Sky Obliteration.
We're murmuration of starlings.
Here we go. We're going to do a live song for you right now.
Night Sky. Seeing. Don't keep them waiting. Give me that. Here it comes.
Night sky of starlings.
A murmuration in the night time.
Night gathering of starlings.
It's symbolized.
A little witchy boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there probably could be an easy scientific explanation for that building event with the murmuration of starlings. Maybe it was something, that we can't explain. It was enough to scare them, obviously. But, if we could just go back to what we've been chatting about tonight, Mike, with the sleep paralysis stuff, to me, just to summarize, it seems like it could be one of two things. On the one hand, yes, maybe it is some sort of dark, malicious entity or presence who likes to prey on us in our most vulnerable states. And, what a terrible thought that is. On the other hand, though, maybe it is us. Maybe it is our shadow peeking out into the world in a Jungian sense and looking back on us and having this really horrific, terrifying experience of its own and trying to get back inside of us. And that's what we experience with these events.
Mm-hmm.
I think we may have proven that here today.
Thanks for joining us, guys.